Rob. Second. All set. All set, Jake.
Someone could give me the verbal yes when RCTV is on. Okay.
Verbal yes.
I take the yes. So thank you. Thanks, Mark. So I'd like to call the select board meeting of December 6th, 2023 to order. We are at Town Hall, also on Zoom and on RCTV, on YouTube, and on Xfinity and Fios. And so tonight we will hear departmental budget presentations from fire, police, health, public works, public services, and administrative services. Since some of us are remote, should we take roll remotely? Okay. So I just by my order of who I see, Mark?
Yes, here.
Karen?
Yes, here.
Chris?
Here.
Thanks, Jackie here, and we know Select Board Member Pachi will not be joining us tonight. So with that, thank you to all of you, department heads, and I see we've also got members of the 2 members of the Finance Committee. So thank you for joining us. 3 members, excuse me. So I don't know if you all need to, if that's a quorum for you.
It's 9, but we're actually at 4 now, right? You've got 1 person in person also.
From FinCom. You have 3 online?
It appears that there are 3 online.
So you're just at 4, so not a quorum yet.
Okay. All right. So thanks again. And I'd like to turn it over to Fidel and Matt, please.
Thank you. So we are excited to just get the night going. Tonight you will hear from our public safety teams as well as our public works team, and in closing will be our combined public services and administrative services teams. So it's a long night. So let's get started, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joking up here.
Yes, please.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Greg Burns, Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director for the town. The Reading Fire Department has 4 major functions: fire suppression, fire prevention, emergency medical services, and emergency management. Our mission is to be an innovative department that's committed to providing the highest levels of public safety services to the residents and visitors of our community. And we protect lives, property, and the environment by providing high quality and professional emergency medical care, fire suppression, fire prevention, emergency management, and public education. Next. Yep. Our goal is to continually evolve and improve the level of and quality of services we provide, and to increase public safety through prevention, public education, professional development, and planning. There's a picture of our firefighters on that slide, training for EMS using high fidelity mannequins that simulate tears, moaning, and they can create cardiac rhythms, breathing abnormalities, and enable them to really hone their skills. Our hope is by functioning as a compassionate professional team, we'll respond to all emergencies and provide positive outcomes that return you to your home and family, and our firefighters to theirs. Next slide, please. So we have 53 full-time equivalent employees for the fire department. We're not requesting any changes to our staffing. It's the same staffing for FY24. Our department has 51 uniformed people. 48 of them are assigned to groups, and they're directly providing emergency services on a day-to-day basis. Each group is headed up by a captain. And then we have 3 people that myself, the Assistant Fire Chief, Tony Del Signore, and Captain Marchetti, that are doing administrative, fire prevention work, emergency management work, and other duties. Our budget highlights, our total budget increase request from FY '24 to FY '25 is 3.94%. Salary increase is 4.04%, and expense request increases 1.1%. Our budget highlights, for the non-union, the salary increases as per the pay and classification plan. The union salary highlights, we have 2 captains that are going through the step system by the contract, and we have 7 lieutenants that also receive a step increase. And we have 18 firefighters receiving a step increase. We're hiring a lot of new people. This fiscal year, we're gonna have 6 people leave the department. 4 through retirements, planned retirements. 1 decided he didn't want to be a firefighter any longer, and then one firefighter transferred to another department. So we've hired 2. We've hired all the positions but 2. We're in the process of doing that right now. We have 2 in the fire academy. 2 more will start in the academy on the 18th, and then the ones that we're looking at hiring. I'm anticipating that date will be 5 to 6 months out. For FY '25 budget highlights, on our expense budget, the 1.1% increase, it's driven by one line item for fire ambulance services. Our EMS Region 3 assessment, that assessment is to help offset the cost of providing a CMed radio in the ambulance that allows our ambulance to communicate to the hospitals. The medical region has radio equipment and dispatches that patch that communications through. And that's a condition of our license that we participate in that. Also, the service contract for our stretchers, stair chair, and CPR compression devices. We have to maintain those systems properly so we don't have a failure to it. So it reduces liability by taking care of that equipment, making sure that a trained technician is looking at it annually and making any repairs that are needed. And we also have a service contract for our EMS high fidelity simulation mannequins. There's software updates for that on a regular basis. And there's skin on it that needs to be replaced because they're putting needles into it for IVs and things. On the fire suppression side, next slide, please. We provide fire protection and emergency response services to our residents to minimize property loss, reduce injuries and fatalities. Looking at the partial year 2023 data, we're seeing an increase to our call volume, primarily in EMS. We've seen comparing the same time period to today, there's a 170 increase. So, like a 5% increase to the responses. We've had 62 fires and 32 fires that are classified as structure fires, according to the fire marshal's requirements on reporting. That's a multiple alarm fire that we had on 52 Mineral Street. The firefighters did a fantastic job confining that to the apartment of origin. Unfortunately, people are still out of that building now, but that's going to be rebuilt, and people will be able to reoccupy that building when the homeowner gets done with his construction. We had 3 multiple alarm fires so far this year: 1 on Haverhill Street and 1 on Ash Street. And last night we had a fire at 2 Summit Drive, the 6-story. There's 3 6-story buildings that are the same. Then there's 4 Summit Drive, a little bit different building. We had a oven fire on the 6th floor. That there was some storage inside that oven that completely charged the upstairs with smoke. The apartment with smoke. Because it was plastics that was burning, there was soot throughout the entire place. And so we had to evacuate the building and get the smoke out, and unfortunately we had the residents out for a while. But it's a very large building, and we have some real elderly people, frail elders that are living in there. So we had to make sure that they were safe before they went back in. Next slide, please. On emergency medical, we provide emergency medical care and treatment to the residents and visitors of Reading that will improve, resolve, or stabilize their condition. So our partial year data up until yesterday was 2,428 EMS responses. And I love to say this, our EMS system's very robust. Every piece of equipment you see on the picture down below, our 2 fire engines and ladder truck, they're registered as Class 5 ambulances. We put ALS medications on each one of those trucks. We provide a 12-lead defibrillator on those trucks, other ALS equipment. If the ambulance is tied up at the hospital, the firefighters that arrive in the fire truck, they provide ALS level care immediately upon their arrival. We're not waiting for another ambulance to come from another community or another place. So it's an outstanding service for the residents. We had a patient come in about 6 weeks ago that went into cardiac arrest prior to our arrival. Fortunately, that person was having CPR done on them when we arrived on scene. The person was treated, taken to the hospital. He had 100% recovery, and he came in to thank the firefighters. So it was really nice for them to see. Fortunately, the group that was working got to talk to him. He had tell you some of the stories that was going on with him, but this is not the place. But it was a remarkable story for the resident. He was really appreciative. He said, anytime you want me to come in and speak about the service, I'll come in. So I thought that was nice. Next slide, please. This is a report that we get from our EMS reporting system. It's looking at data for cardiac arrest victims in 3 types. This one is a patient that had into cardiac arrest that was unwitnessed. And so far, year to date, we've had 6 patients go into cardiac arrest that was unwitnessed. And 4 of those, we were able to get return of spontaneous circulation. So, and unfortunately, 2 of those we were not. Next slide, please. On the witness cardiac arrest, we had 2 of those. 1 we were able to get return of spontaneous circulation, and 1 we were not. And then next slide, please. And then on one that we were on scene where the patient goes into cardiac arrest, we had 4 of those patients, and we had 2 that we were not able to get back, 2 we were able to get back. So that's what we're trying to do is for those critical patients, get them the life-saving medications and treatment they need right away. So the patients that were fortunate enough to get back the return of spontaneous circulation, I can't tell you every one of them left the hospital. We just don't know. We can't get that data, but we do know that we can make a difference when we're there and give them the best chance that they have, and that's what we're trying to do. The next slide just shows the wide variety of medications that we carry and are able to give in the resident's home or car, in a car as a result of a car accident, or out in the sidewalk. Wherever we find them, we have that significant list of medications that we carry. Next slide. On the fire prevention side, fire safety is achieved with specialized inspections, testing, and consultation services to the residents, business owners, and industry professionals, so we all live and work in a safe community. We've done 517 inspections this year, and our permit revenue collected was just over 20,000. We're still seeing construction steadily in Reading. We just closed out the Chronicle building that opened. There's still a building under construction here on Woburn Street, and we know we're gonna see some more construction on Main Street. And then there's a lot of residents that are doing a lot of work in their own homes that we need to inspect and review their equipment. Next slide, please. Fire education. The community fire education provides risk reduction programs to the community of Reading, and they're designed to prevent and better prepare our residents for emergencies. And we have two programs. The SAFE program, you see a picture of the trailer, it's for kids, and we're teaching them fire safety skills, how to crawl low and smoke, stop, drop, and roll, how to escape. And you see the picture on the bottom right-hand side. There's actually a smoke condition that we can create inside that trailer. That's a bedroom. It's actually a bed in there. So it teaches the children a second way out if they need to. Our safe coordinator is Lieutenant Ryan Buckley. He does a fantastic job. And Lieutenant Paul Dalton, up in the top part of the picture there, he's our senior safe coordinator, and he's dealing with the elderly. And he has programs for our elderly residents. Next slide, please. Emergency management. The goal for emergency management is to identify areas of vulnerability to the community and to prepare for all disasters, whether natural or man-made, and to coordinate the response of a wide range of agencies and assist in the recovery phase. So in my tenure as emergency management director, we dealt with a lot of things from floods, localized floods, power outages, water emergencies, and the COVID response, and also to coordinate the town getting reimbursed for expenses that are eligible when a federal disaster declaration is declared. Next slide, please. So we have some grants in progress. Our SAFE grant, that's the program for the children that we bring into the school system. We received $4,381 from the state. Our senior safe program received $2,277 from the state. We received in last fiscal year, we just closed it out a couple months ago, a $19,000 firefighter safety equipment grant. And we use that for protective clothing. That's a competitive grant. If you don't meet a certain point criteria, they grade you down. So we're eligible for $19,000. If you don't write it correctly, you could end up with significantly less than that. So we received the full amount, and we just requested another grant for the same amount. With our 6 new hires, we're asking for firefighter protective equipment. The cost to outfit a firefighter with protective equipment has gone up significantly in the last couple of years. For the protective clothing, boots, protective pants, coat, helmet, it's $5,000, so it's considerable. The next slide, please. Revenue, we've seen an increase in FY23 for ambulance revenue. You can see that's ambulance revenue is always kind of a little bit unpredictable. Over time, it's going up, but it depends upon the level of care we're providing to the patient and what their insurance is. If it's a Medicare patient, we get a significantly reduced amount. If it's a patient that has private insurance, they'll pay the full amount. And then there's a graph showing FEMA reimbursements. We got just under $100,000 a couple of years ago for our COVID reimbursement. We still have another request in with FEMA. It's just over $400,000. It's gone over review after review. I'm hoping it's at the end of it. I've never seen so many reviews, and they keep trimming it. So I don't know what it's going to look like when it comes out, but they keep trimming it a little bit. The last time they trimmed it like $300 or $400. Before that, they've trimmed it, several $1,000s, and that's for all the response that the town did that they determined was eligible for COVID, like the Lexian shields and the PPE equipment that we bought, sanitation equipment, and some of the overtime and things to do that. They cut out stuff, a lot of the emergency response stuff they cut out on us. We had a shift of firefighters that we had to take offline because so many of them had COVID. We had to stop that spread. By the criteria, we thought it would be eligible for reimbursement, but at the second or third review, that got cut out of it. So, but I'm optimistic. At some point, we'll see a significant amount. Whether it'll be up to that level, I just can't tell you right now. Next slide, please. Just want to give you an update. Last time I made my presentation, I talked about future needs and goals that we had in the fire department, and it was revolved around placing the shift commander in the car, because it would improve safety, improve supervision, give that officer the ability at an emergency scene to focus on that emergency scene and not have to be involved in engine company duties like stretching lines and being on the hand line. Also gives the supervisor the ability to go to an incident on the other side of town or the highway without taking a piece of fire apparatus. So we keep that fire apparatus available for the next call. That was implemented July 1. And the shift commander car, that was approved at town meeting. So, and the other request was, the other phase 3 was not counting the fire prevention officer. We achieved that with the firefighter's contract. We'll be not counting that person. So it's gonna help our shift strength, and that's gonna happen at the end of the contract. So with the support of the town manager and the select board, finance committee, and town meeting, we were able to achieve what I was looking for. And we've had it in place now since July 1, and it's really improved our operations and met the needs and the goals that we set for it. Last night, when I showed up at the 2 Summit Drive incident, the shift commander was in front of the building. He was focusing on what he needed to focus on and not involved in pulling lines and things like that. So it achieved what we were looking for. So thank you for that. I'm very appreciative of the support that we received from the select board. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you, and be happy to answer any questions.
It's gonna be fun. Jackie, I think Ed Ross is now in the room also. I think he may be at 5. So you should call yourself to order.
Yeah, can we, so effectively 7:02, we'll call the finance committee to order.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you can.
Yes, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that the new additional supervisor scenario is working out well. Question for you. Wondering, how long has the COVID reimbursement process been ongoing? I might have missed it if you said that. How long have you been working on this?
It's probably been a year and a half since that was put in, and
I'm wondering if, would it be possible for us to reach out to our federal delegation, Seth Moulton or whomever, to maybe, it's kind of a long time. I don't know how the other select board members feel, but maybe this would be an appropriate, we haven't asked them for anything recently. Maybe this would be an appropriate thing to ask for.
And I think why it's taking so long for this one is because every city and town in the nation is eligible for it.
Okay.
So it's I think they're just absolutely swamped with it.
Well, maybe they
Is
could,
it-
at
no,
least
yeah.
they could confirm that for you?
No, I agree with you. It helps
Yeah,
to ask
okay,
and,
okay.
yeah,
All right,
but I think that's what it is, but I agree, it's helpful to ask because maybe it'll push these things along because that amount of money means an awful lot to a community.
It does, and I appreciate your persistence and follow through, and it's probably frustrating. And the only other question I was, and I appreciate you going over a number of the incidents that you've addressed and the team has addressed this year. I was wondering how you're feeling about, is it Reading Woods on the southwest corner of town that was having I may be calling it Reading Woods, Reading Commons, where the electrical issues were underway. I was just wondering how you're feeling about that situation now.
Well, it seems to have stabilized. So we were following it the entire time. Assistant Chief Tony Del Signore, he was on it down there day after day. So what was happening was buildings were losing their power. Large buildings, and there was three main power sources for the building. The main power, things that powered the elevator, power for the units, power for the building itself, and lighting, and the buildings were going down, and we'd lose one building, then we'd lose another building, and then another. So they brought in the management company brought in generators to provide power to the buildings. We asked Reading Light to come and take a look at their equipment, and they did. They brought down their engineer, their call person, in to look at it. So they were looking at it, and then Reading Woods hired an engineer that is a forensic power engineer that looks at things like that. His forte was looking at power supply issues in hospitals. So very, very well versed in those kind of things. So they put testing data on the power, and they were looking at that. They still have to. Tony, you touched base with them beginning of this week, was it?
I did, yeah. I mean, they're still going over some of the data to see what's going on, but they've taken some steps, and I think it's been about 4 weeks now since they've had issues.
So I talked to a resident at the Thanksgiving dinner, and she gave me an earful of the safety concerns. Speaking about seniors, there's a lot of these seniors. The power chairs wouldn't work. They couldn't get up. The garage doors wouldn't open.
Yeah.
They were, and I heard some of these stories already, but they were leaving the property because they were concerned about their safety. So, and this is before any fires or anything like that. But so. That's great news to hear. They did tell me at that time that had been no outages for about a week, at least in this person's building that she knew of. And at this point, are you under the impression that they are relying on those generators, or are those there just in case and they're operating under their own power?
They're operating under their own
Oh,
power
okay.
now.
Okay, that's good news.
And we were on top of it. When they lost power, we made sure things were safe. We made sure, because their emergency lighting would fail after about an hour and a half. The
Another
batteries would go
example.
dead. So
Yep.
we would require them to bring in additional lighting. People they were leaving the garage doors open and cars were still coming in and out, but the carbon monoxide system wasn't working properly, so we couldn't allow them to put cars in. So we were on top of it to make sure it was safe, and we're also trying to, making phone calls to Reading Light to make sure that they were aware of it, and they were very responsive, and we're also prodding the management company to hire a professional consultant to take a look at and find out what the root causes are, because they were replacing things like breakers, and then that would fail.
Mhm.
So it really needed a top-down look to see what was going on, and that's what they did. Things seem to have stabilized. I'm anxious to see what the report is from this consultant,
Okay.
to see what that determination is. But they took other steps, and those steps seem to have resolved the situation. But hopefully,
Well, I appreciate the collaboration, and when this resident was just telling me all of the different ways that the residents were, pretty terrified while this was happening, I appreciate it, and that's great news, so thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Jackie, can I ask?
Other select board members in the room who would like to speak?
Thanks, Jackie. So thanks again, Greg. Two quick questions. One, when you mentioned that all of the vehicles are ambulances, that means they can transport as well?
No.
Not transport.
By the state, a Class 5 ambulance, that designation just allows us to carry medication.
Got it.
So in order to do that, we have to have the Class 5 license, and then we have to have a license for controlled substances for the medications, and then we have to have a 12-lead defibrillator and other equipment. So it's just a piece of,
Treatment, but not transport.
Yeah.
In an advanced level.
yeah, it allows us to give the medications right away.
Awesome. No, all good. I wanted
Yeah.
to understand that. Other question, I know every several years we take a look at how much we're charging for ambulance service. Are we still competitive? I don't remember the last time we did it. I think
It's
I
been a
probably ask
while
this every
since
year.
we've done it. When we started the ALS program, the board at the time didn't want to have like very high rates. So we're probably towards the lower end of the rates because some communities are very expensive. So our average ALS response would be around $2,300. Some communities are, probably up around the $4,000 range. I can tell you that Blue Cross Blue Shield has really pushed back on these high things. They've done a number of things to try to, in my opinion, they want to push the rates down to the Medicare level, which is a very difficult rate for a community because it's not a moneymaker for us. It's a level of service. It's like, what kind of EMS system do you want? And so it reimburses a lot of those costs, but not everything, And so if we lost that, it would just push more of a burden onto the community that's trying to really take care of the residents.
Yeah. I think my concern comes up where not every community has ALS service, but we do
Right.
in all activities.
Yep.
And I'm sure nobody would ever shop Reading to do that, but because we have ALS and we go through and give extra training, we do incur extra costs.
We do, yeah. And it's important to have that training, and I think it's important to have that level of service that you have control over, because the communities that don't do it themselves, they have a contract and they won't have an ambulance in their community all the time. They're sharing it with another community that's got a similar population. So that one ambulance, instead of taking care of, we're about 26,000 now. There's communities on our border that one ambulance is covering two communities, population of over 50,000. It's being moved around. So
Maybe at some point we kind of just make sure that things aren't crazy.
Sure.
If everybody's charging $4,000, we're charging $2,400, that probably isn't right.
Right.
But I hear you. I don't remember the last time we looked at it. I think it's been several years, but
yeah, we can take a look at it.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris,
Sorry, Chris.
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you, Chief. In terms of growth for the town, do you foresee hiring any additional positions? I know it's not in the budget for you this year, but for following years, or how is that scaling up?
Yeah, I think our long-term goals, we see the community grow. We see some more larger buildings come in and the community grow. I can see us increase by 4 and to increase our staffing by 1 more per group. So on the horizon, not next fiscal year, but in the future, I think so. And the other thing we have to look at too is the increase in emergency medical calls. Putting an ambulance on during the daytime to hit some of the peak at some point is going to be worthwhile because of the call volume. They can be quite busy, and when you look at the stats, I mean, they're going 24/7. But when you look at the bulk of the calls where we're having relying on mutual aid, it's during the daytime. And generally Monday through Friday. The weekends can be not as high a demand, although we have some really busy weekends. But to catch the best bang for the dollar, when I looked at the statistics, it was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if you did the day shift, you'd capture about 80% of that.
And we have how many? 1 ambulance?
We have 1 ambulance.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, Chief Burns, and also I know we're still a couple of months away, but I just want to thank Assistant Chief Del Signore as well for his service and wish him all the best, Tony, on your retirement, and thank you and your team for keeping us safe and healthy.
Appreciate it, thank you. It's been an honor to serve the town.
It's been great to work with Tony. Appreciate all his hard work. He's been a great partner. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and then I think next we've got, Reading Police Department.
Department Chief Clark, hi.
Hi, how are you, Jackie? So,
Great.
I think everybody knows me, David Clark from the police. So start with the police department. I didn't put any numbers on, tonight because I have 3 unions. 2 have settled. Fidel, Matt Canales, and Sean and I, and Deputy Chief Amendola had a great meeting today with the patrol officers union, the last one we had. We've come to a tentative agreement. We're hoping they're gonna ratify on Monday night, and then we'll be settled. But I didn't want to put numbers in that were kind of off. So I didn't put salary numbers in for that reason. And for expenses, I'm gonna actually be level funding my expense budget for this year, for next year. So I'm not asking for any increases in expenses. I'm able to shift a couple things around with this new contract, kind of working, and I'm good. And I have to say, other department heads have been very generous. We needed a couple things a couple years ago, and they level funded their budget so we could get things, and it's my turn to kind of be able to give that back to them now in hopes that it kind of helps the budget so other department heads can get what they need, because they've been very generous to step back for us when we needed things. So that's where it kind of stands. So that's why I have no numbers for you tonight. So we can go to the next slide, Jackie. Oh, sorry, not Jackie, Jesus, Caitlin, sorry. Organizational chart, I probably can't see it, boring, so we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Staffing. So you're gonna see an asterisk next to we're currently at full staffing. Every time I say that, something happens, we're not. But
Not at full staff.
so we are full staffing, meaning I have 46, I'm staffed for budgeted for 46 1 officers. I have 46 1 officers on the department. I just need to make one more promotion to sergeant. We have a new sergeant exam coming up in the summer, and we'll have a new assessment center, and then I'll make that sergeant promotion, but I already have the patrol officers' positions filled for that. We do have 1 officer that just deployed with the military, and I'm being told I'm not expecting to see him back until January of 2025. So I'm fully staffed, but I don't have everybody. The last 2 of our hires graduated academy, and they're finishing up their field training program, and they're gonna be counting as bodies on, they're done with the training, so they'll actually be counted as bodies on the shift. Lauren and Armor will be coming on next week, and they'll count as bodies, which will help. We also have a dispatcher. We finally filled dispatch after being down in dispatch for about a year. Part of it's my fault because I hired one of my dispatchers for her to become a police officer, but she was a great employee and didn't want to not move her up. So we hired this woman, Emily Pontes. She's on training right now, so I'm staffed, but she's still training, so doesn't count as a body yet, but we're hoping around February she'll be off of training. And the coalition, as you know, Crystal left us to move up and do something bigger. We have a conditional of employment out for someone. She's gonna be starting in January. She had asked us actually to start later because she wanted to finish up a project she was working on in her current job, which to me only speaks to her work ethic, and which I think is a great thing for us. So she's gonna be starting mid-January, Sean? Just say yes, okay, yes, okay. She's gonna be starting mid-January for us, and that'll fill the coalition for us. So we'll be total between dispatch, the coalition, crossing guards, and the police department, we'll be fully staffed at 79 people, including the park enforcement officer. So we'll be there. Next slide, please. So for community outreach, we still remain very, very active out there with the community. We're very active on social media. We over 9,700 followers on Facebook and Instagram. We're over 2,000 now. We remain very active, posting a lot. We're starting to post more and more when there's road closures, more informative. And we're gonna be actually working a little bit more on highlighting when the officers get a great arrest. If they get a great drug arrest, they get a great drunk driving arrest, a great something kind of arrest. We're gonna be starting to highlight more of kind of the police work part of it. We're very good with the community part of it. We just wanna start focusing on actually some of the police work that we do. We did run 2 women's self-defense classes, thanks to the Women's League of Reading, who donated the funds for that. We were able to run those again free of charge. That's a program we've been able to run since 1996, nonstop. We've put thousands of women through that self-defense class. We did hold another Citizen Police Academy. We have participated in the lunchroom takeover again last year at the elementary schools in the spring, where we go in and take over and serve the kids lunch. That has been very successful. They've been asking us to come back twice a year now. It's been so much fun, and the kids seem to love it, and it's really, that's been a great thing for us. Fidel's come to a couple with us and had a great time with it. We held our annual open house in the spring, and it's tough because we take over the Walgreens, the Harnan Street lot, our building. But we're estimating between, well, we went through some things, anywhere about 800 people came to that open house. The National Guard now comes, the state police, and we have a variety of programs. NEMLEC sends their SWAT trucks, everything, and it's just been a great benefit thing for us. The bicycle helmet safety program went again, so we issue the kids, if we see them wearing helmets, issue a citation. All the local business participate for a free slice of free ice cream or a free slice of pizza. That's been very successful. Kids love it, the officers love doing it. We held our senior citizen dinner not that long ago. Thank you to Harrow's for donating all the chicken pies. But that was, again, just another successful night. That books out quickly. We're actually looking at, it books out so quickly, we're actually looking at doing it over 2 nights now. And because of the overflow, we're looking at doing that next year. We did hold Coffee with a Cop not that long ago. Again, very successful with everybody. And they participated in the Fall Street Fair, Town Day, Downtown Trick or Treat, Touch a Truck events, National Night Out, and a whole bunch of different agencies. Trunk or Treat, and we have this Saturday we'll be at Market Basket. We're teaming up with the Reading High School and doing Stuff a Cruiser with a food drive for the Reading Food Pantry. And on top of all the fundraising that we do with the patch projects that we do and everything, so we just remain very active with the community outreach, and I think that we're going to continue that. I have buy-in from the entire staff on this. They love doing it. I have more than enough officers. For those of you that were able to make the senior citizen dinner, you should have seen the amount of officers there and staff and civilian staff there was incredible. And it was a huge turnout. And we have a lot of fun just interacting with everybody. Next slide, please. I'm not going to overstat you to death. I think last year, Chief Burns really made fun of me last year because I kind of stated everybody to death. So I'm going to cut it down this year. Over the past 3 years on the left is calls for service. I ran that through the end of November. I ran it again tonight before I came in, and we're about to break 19,000 calls for service already for this year. 2 years ago, we were at 20,000. Last year, we're at 21,000. If December goes like it has, we'll be just over that 21,000 again if it continues. On the right is log entries by dispatch. At dispatch, we have 11 civilian dispatches, and they're very busy. They do police and fire, emergency medical dispatch, and 911, and they've been very busy with their log entries. I didn't want to stat everything, but I'll throw out a couple positives and some negatives. Again, it's a lot of what we do isn't proactive, it's reactive. But for example, last year we had 98 domestic disturbances, domestic assaults. This year we've already had 127 year to date. Mental health calls have gone down. We had 446 last year, we're 357. But the types of serious mental health calls have risen. Last year, people that either threatened to commit suicide or attempted suicide or unfortunately succeeded was 61. This year to date, we're already at 71. Section 12s, which is an involuntary committal to us for an evaluation. That's all we can do is commit to a facility for evaluation. Section 12s, last year we did 53. This year to date, we're on 83. So mental health calls are down overall, but the seriousness of the mental health calls is starting to go up. Tanya, and I'll show her information when I do our mental health clinician. When I do the slide for the coalition, I'll be able to show you exactly the kind of work that she's been doing. She's been a godsend for us to have. Motor vehicle crashes are coming down. Right after COVID, during COVID, people driving was the Indy 500 because nobody's on the road. And when COVID ended and people started going back to work, drivers continued to drive like it was that kind of traffic level, and accidents were through the roof. We had 452 car crashes last year that we investigated. This year, we're at 381. Now, if we end up having a freak snowstorm in middle of December, or 2 years ago, I think it was Jane, we had that flash freeze on Christmas morning, and we had like 23 car crashes in 2 hours. That could change, but again, that's out of our hands. But now that I'm at full staffing, the officers have been out there a lot more able to make traffic stops because we have more officers on the street and be able to make more traffic stops. We're more visible in the street, make traffic stops. That would increase traffic. The traffic accidents are going down. We're hoping they continue to go down. And like protective custody for alcohol, we're seeing a decline in the amount of people we're bringing in protective custody for drugs or alcohol. So there's just a couple of stats we have. It's kind of a mix of some are going up, some going down, and that's like that every year. Next slide, please. Our detectives unit has been very busy. In 2021, they did 111 investigations. Last year, they did 158. As of the end of November, they've done 143. So still up from a couple years ago. Hopefully, I'd rather have my detectives not busy, but we'll probably be about the same for this year. Next, please. And public records requests. Wow, I did my slides very small, I apologize for that. Public records requests, 2021, we had over 1,900. Last year, we had 2,121. This year, we're at 1,739. Again, this is at the end of November. We still have all of December to go. And license to carry applications, license to carry firearm, we're still on pace for probably break right around 600 and been a pretty consistent year with the amount we file for license to carries. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about, before we go to dispatch, a little bit about hiring. We have Lauren and Armour were the first two we've had to send to the academy in a long time. The past 10 hires, we've actually taken 7 lateral transfers from other police agencies. We are a very desirable town to work for and a very desirable police department to work for. And that has saved us a lot of money with time, because instead of sending somebody for an academy for 6 months and then having them do 14 weeks of training, we can just send them to a 14-week training to kind of learn the right way of doing things. But we still remain a very desirable town to work for, and that's been great that we've only had to send 3 of our last 10 hires actually to the academy. And it's a nice little perk that we have. No. Dispatch, like I said, the public safety dispatchers, they do a phenomenal job. It's 11 of them in there, the civilians. They do police and the fire department for us. They're housed in the police station, and they're obviously open 24 hours a day. And they do 911, regular business line, police radio, fire radios, emergency medical dispatch, and they run license plates for us. They dispatch all the calls. They also deal with the public at the window. They do a tremendous job. It is a unique job. You have to have the ability to multitask if there's no tomorrow. It can be quiet in there with nothing going on, and then it can be sudden chaos. And you have to be able to multitask and deal with police and fire, particularly if it's an incident where a serious car accident where both of us are there. You're having both agencies calling over the radio trying to get information in, and it can be very confusing in there, but they do a fantastic job. We're very lucky to have a great group of men and women in there, and we're very happy that we're finally at full staffing after being short one body for well over a year. It's been great to have that almost fully staffed now. Like I said, Emily should be coming off training in February. We're hoping to stay that way. We do have a grant through 911 that our head dispatcher puts through every year. It's not guaranteed, but generally we get about, I think this year we're scheduled to get another $65,000, which helps offset a lot of the costs. Again, that's big, but it's not guaranteed, but we're going to use that to offset a lot of the costs, and it pays for a lot of the training that we send the dispatchers to. Okay, next slide, please. The coalition, Erica and Crystal and Tanya did phenomenal work. Now that we finally have Crystal's position filled, which is the outreach coordinator, the coalition staff conduct a variety of prevention activities. They've reached over 2,256 individuals in Reading. The mental health clinician has conducted 219 crisis follow-ups. She's been great to work with. She rides along with the police officers. She goes to the calls. She does a tremendous amount of follow-ups for us. It's able to free up the officers sometimes on call, so we can, once we know the scene is safe and the person's not a threat, it's able to allow us to take off and go to other calls or her to do the follow-up. She's also been working with, we have a grant through Respond, which is our domestic violence advocate. So they don't actually work for the town, but they're housed in the police station. And Tanya's been able to work with that person and help with our community service officer. And Tanya also sits on the hoarding task force, which is made up of police, fire, Elder and Human Services, the health department, and she's on that task force too to kind of help get an overall view and make sure the person gets the services that are needed and what the town can offer. But she's been great with us. She goes to the high school. She helps out with works with the SROs, regularly teaches with them. They disseminated 35 pocket translators, which we tested with police first, and it's been great. My office is using them quite regularly now. With traffic stops, it's been great. Interviewing people has been fantastic, and I know she issued every department head that one is able to get it, and they issued a whole bunch of the schools. And there was a pilot program that she helped develop and start and got the money for, and like I said, my offices are using it regularly, and I know it's been a huge success with that. And the coalition certified 177 teens and 35 adults in mental health first aid. Share. And next slide. So, again, our job is to provide the best service for the town, and service isn't about just making arrests, traffic stops. It's about community input, community service, reaching out to people. And my firm belief on traffic stops is it's not about ticketing people, it's about being visible, making the stops out there. And I think people learn far more from warnings than they do from tickets. And that's the philosophy out there, and it's visibility. People see you make a traffic stop out there, they know you're out there. We are making arrests, don't get me wrong, we're getting the bad guys off the street, but we're also stopping by lemonade stands, interacting with the kids, playing basketball with the kids. And I'm looking for the complete picture with my staff, and they've been fantastic. I gotta say, I'm very lucky. Not only have the command staff and the supervisors around me, but a group of patrol officers around me that have 100% buy-in, and we're having a lot of fun together. And that's all I have. Was it better, Greg?
That was good.
Okay.
That's for
No questions, great, okay, thanks.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I was just letting the dust settle. Hold on, I don't have to
It was
go
a
first,
great
you go
attempt.
first.
Just one question. I know that last year with Sergeant Silva, right?
Lieutenant Silva now.
Lieutenant, excuse me. I did it backward.
Okay.
Lieutenant Silva. He took on a new role in terms of running day shift as well as being civil rights officer. Is that working? Is that kind of the plan to stay? Because I think he's doing awesome. But I know there was a question, could he do both? Is that working out okay?
I agree with you. Lieutenant Silva's phenomenal at that position, and I wouldn't want to replace him even unless it became such a significant burden. But no, we because of the other supervisors stepping up, Lieutenant Silva's been able to continue that role, and that's our goal. Is unless something drastically changes, which I don't see it happening, no, it's by plan of keeping him there.
Yeah,
He's been tailor-made for that, and I think he's just great. He really enjoys doing it, and we've been able to kind of adjust some things in the schedule to make that happen.
Okay, thanks. He's been awesome.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's my only question.
Madam Chair, is it okay if I ask a question? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great presentation, thank you for the update, and I was just wondering about public records requests. It
Yeah.
looks like at the end of the year, you might actually be down a little bit. And I'm wondering about this as a cost to our community and a cost to departments that have to respond to them. I'm wondering about the nature of these requests, because I understand now that there are companies out there that can for free get data for their business by reaching out for public records requests either with the town and I don't know if you get those kind of requests as well. So I'm wondering if you could kind of summarize.
So public records requests are kind of all over the place. It can be a simple log entry.
Yeah.
Or it could be a lawyer looking at something and they're requesting phone transmissions, phone calls, 911 call, radio transmissions, audio and video tapes,
So like
booking.
cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that can take a significant period of time because we have to go redact anything medical, anything with dates of birth, social security numbers, and that can take a significant time frame. Since the change in the law, yes, just like any change, I know they try to make public records easier for people. Unfortunately, just sometimes with everything, now we're finding law firms at the beginning of every month send us requests for all the
That's what I was
traffic
wondering.
accidents we have to try to drum up business.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yep, and so with the public records, Gus, or it looks like she's ready to hit me if I say something wrong, so.
No.
Yours burning, Laura?
Pretty much.
They've been very clear very cautious about not charging people. They've been very, we always get somebody ask for an exemption. They've been very clear about even the state has been very clear about not charging people. It's tough to put a monetary value on it. So honestly, we don't charge for it, but I have the staff that right now can handle it. Donna, my specialist, I forget her title. Administrative specialist, thank you. She deals with the traffic accident portion of it. Kate Steer, who helps out with the license to carries, does the other ones for the detective reports and everything. Everything's still reviewed by Lieutenant Detective Abadi before it goes out. And generally, my head dispatcher, Vicky Avery, handles any of the recordings or anything that needs to be done. So we split up between 3 people, and it's been good. But yeah, the state's been very leery about us charging and come up with a fee. And the fee, even if you do, it's so minimal that it's, I don't even know if it's worth it trying to come up with a bill, to be honest with you, to try to
Just wondering, so what my takeaways are is the staff you have now is still able to manage it. I don't see a dramatic increase this year. And I appreciate the insight into, the kinds of public record requests that you guys are getting.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be just sometimes the news agencies, even though I'll give them everything they want, they'll file public records requests. I think sometimes they don't deal with departments that aren't as open with talking with them. So they'll file a public records request and I'll call up the reporter and I'll be like, hey, what do you want? I'll tell you what you're gonna give you, because I find it a lot better, and they take, if you work with the news than against the news, and we've had a pretty good relationship with them so far, so.
Okay. Great. Did you raise your hand, Matt?
Me? Oh, no.
Oh, you were just scratching.
You
Okay,
got enough,
sorry.
you ask questions.
Any questions? No,
So-
sir. Laura, maybe.
May I just add something?
Chris, just come over to the podium, please.
I just wanted to make sure it's understood that when Chief Clark is referring to public records, he's referring only to the police department. We have a total
Absolutely.
other area of public
Yep.
records.
And that's why I wanted to ask. Thank you. Yep. Appreciate it.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Chief. Same question for you going forward. Do you anticipate hiring any new beyond the positions that you already have for next year, following year?
At some point with the amount of apartments that are coming in, we do see an increase in disturbance, neighbors fighting has gone up, parking complaints have gone up, domestics have gone up. If at some point, yes, I might be coming to ask for more staff. If I don't, it just means we stop being proactive. And if all the officers are dealing with calls, they're not out there being able to make traffic stops at the neighborhoods. So yes, more staffing eventually might have to kind of match the cost of service. And we are seeing the cost of service continually and steadily go on up. So at some point that could be coming to the town and asking for more bodies, or it just means that we become almost just reactive and not proactive.
And then a content idea for your Facebook page is the crossing guards are some of the best people that I've ever seen, and very rarely I've ever spoken with, because the one on 28 in Birch Meadow is just sitting there waving for like hours to like each and every kid that drives by. So, and then the same thing with the Birch Meadow one. I have the ornament on my tree from last year that JJ gave that now just got replaced by some other guy that's over there, but they're like super friendly, personable people. So just kudos to them, because it's often lost that you don't associate crossing guards with the police department. So.
Yeah, a lot of times they fall under the school department. It's probably half and half of the school, half and half of the police department. But no, they're probably, we probably lacking in knowledge in them for their service to the town. I would agree.
But thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Clark. I guess the only thing I have, it isn't really a question so much as just maybe some food for thought, is I know it's been a few years since the police reform legislation was signed into law in the state, and that there's been a number of training and certification requirements. And I had seen somewhere that there was at least a look at that on Beacon Hill at the state legislature. So I know Beacon Hill and state legislature is gearing up for a busy first half of the year next year. So if there are things that we want to communicate to our legislative delegation on those issues, we can certainly discuss that.
Definitely. I think you've known too, we've been very busy with our training aspect. We're doing a lot of de-escalation training and working with the officers, doing a role-playing scenario about trying to de-escalate someone. And I gotta say, 95% of the time we can de-escalate somebody, but I think anybody who's talked to, you've dealt with citizens, you've dealt with people, sometimes it just doesn't work and you have to use other tools. So we do practice with our tools and any tools we have, and we've done practice now. We have a canine now. It doesn't sound, but the canine is actually a de-escalation tool. Tango comes in the car and he starts barking. People, okay, put their hands up, put their hands behind their back. We've had the tasers. We have yet to deploy the taser, but a couple times we've had to just do the spark test on it, and where it just kind of gives like a little zit and see the spark come out, and that's been enough to de-escalate people and have people take a step back. And that's generally the last resort when everything else doesn't work. But I gotta say, 95% of the time we're able to talk somebody down. But that's one of the things with Post is we've been really focusing on the training of our officers and our staff.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like moving on, we've got Health Department presentation.
And Ade is doing it remotely. There he is.
Hello.
Hello, Ade.
All right. Good evening, members of the board, the town manager, and the general public. I am happy to be here tonight, and my team and I would like to thank you for your unwavering support. My name is Ade Solarian, Public Health Director for the town of Reading. I am here to present the Health Department's proposed Level 1 budget for fiscal year 2025. Next slide, please. Our mission is to protect and promote the health and well-being of our residents and visitors and improve their quality of life and environment. As a result, our key responsibilities include leading public health activities related to disease outbreaks and surveillance, administering vaccinations, managing establishment permitting and inspections, managing compliance checks and inspections related to tobacco control, animal control, and pest control, tracking and responding to public health complaints, collaborating with federal, state, and local agencies to coordinate public health responses. Next slide, please. Our department's ability to build a strong collaboration and coordination with community partners and departments within our town government has fostered effective public health partnership programs, such as the mammography clinic in April 2023, I believe. Also the eye care clinic we had at the town hall. Next slide, please. The hearing clinic at the library, and multiple vaccination clinics. Next slide, please. All right, so this is our health department structure. We have 4 full-time employees: the health director, the health inspector, the admin assistant, and the public health nurse. The public health nurse position is currently vacant, and we are working diligently to fill the vacancy. We also employ the expertise of independent contractors, as well as a weights and measures inspector who is considered a seasonal employee. Next slide, please. So I remember we gave back some money last year. You know, that's not the case this time around. Sorry to disappoint you all. This year is a little bit different. Here's our proposed budget summary for fiscal year 25. The summary includes the salaries budget and the expenses budget combined. We're looking at a net budget increase Can you go back, please? Okay. Yes. All right, so we're looking at a net budget increase of 4.3% in the amount of $18,875. Next slide, please. So if you look at the salaries budget alone, you can see that we've proposed a budget increase of 8.8%, which is equivalent to a $28,375 budget increase. Next slide. And in this proposed expenses budget, you can see that we've proposed a budget decrease of 8.4%, which is equivalent to a $9,500 budget decrease. Slide, please. So here is a breakdown of the salaries and expenses budget combined. The chart may seem overwhelming, but we want to focus on the last 3 columns. The top part of the chart is the salaries budget, and the bottom half is the expenses budget. So the top half, which is the salaries budget, is pretty much consistent with the FY25 salary projections, which include a 1.25% cost of living adjustment across the board, a 2.35% step increase for non-union, non-management employees, and a 2.5% step increase for non-union management employees. To keep up with our increasing workload and demand, especially outside of working hours, the health director's position is now a 40-hour per week salaried position instead of a 37.5 hours per week salaried position. The changes are reflected in the proposed FY25 salaries budget as shown in the chart. Another thing to note in the salaries budget is the $8,200 projection for the weights and measures inspector. I recall in FY24, we budgeted $6,000 in the expenses budget to pay for the weights and measures inspector as an independent contractor. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you see it, the inspector was hired as a seasonal employee, which comes with cost of living adjustment and step increase eligibility. So what we did was we pretty much defunded the $6,000 expense line item and created a seasonal salary line item in the amount of $8,200. And this amount factors in the cost of living adjustments and potential step increase for the weights and measures inspector in FY25. One last thing to note in the salaries budget is that we're asking for an additional $1,500 increase to supplement our overtime line item. This will help cover overtime pay for inspections outside of our working hours. We have a lot of complaints we respond to outside of our working hours. We are technically considered first responders as well. And we respond to emergency situations with police and fire as needed. As Chief Burns mentioned earlier, the health department was on scene last night at Tucson Drive as well. We also inspect food vendors that attend weekend events such as the Beer Garden celebration, Friends and Family Day celebration, Juneteenth celebration, Winterfest, and so on, outside of our working hours. This overtime line item will also be used to compensate the health admin assistant for her role during our monthly Board of Health meetings on the second Thursday of each month from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that's it for the salaries budget, which is the top half. So now we're going to the expenses budget, which is the bottom half. Everything is pretty much level funded in the expenses budget, except for the following. As I stated earlier, we eliminated the $6,000 weight and measures line item and created an $8,200 line item for the weights and measures inspector due to the position being a seasonal position instead of an independent contractor position. We cut the animal disposal line item in half because we recently received the animal control line item from the police department in the amount of $25,000. And some of the responsibilities do overlap. And I don't see a reason why we should have a duplicate budget for expenses that overlap. So we pretty much cut that animal disposal line item into half from $10,000 to $5,000. We are asking to fund the departmental supplies equipment line item in the amount of $500. And we're also asking to increase the mileage reimbursement line item in the amount of $1,000 to reimburse us for work-related transportation and or travel expenses. Next slide, please. So in summary, we're proposing a $1,000 increase to the mileage reimbursement line item in the expenses budget, a $5,000 decrease to the animal disposal line item in the expenses budget. We're proposing to fund the departmental supplies and equipment line item in the amount of $500 in the expenses budget. We're proposing to eliminate $6,000 weights and measures expense line item in the expenses budget. And we are proposing to fund the salaries budget to reflect projected salary and cost of living adjustments in the amount of $28,375. So looking at the budget in its entirety, it comes down to two things. We are proposing a $9,500 decrease in the expenses budget and a $28,375 increase in the salaries budget, leaving us with a total net budget increase of 4.3% in the amount of $18,875. So all we're asking for is $18,875 compared to what we gave back last year, which was around $29,000. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ade. Questions in the room?
Jackie, it's Mark.
Yep, go ahead.
Ade, with the budget as you've set it out with 4 people in the department, do you have what you need to manage the health activities for the town of Reading?
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris or Karen?
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you, Ade. So same question for you. Do you anticipate having to hire anybody new in the next year or two, or you have everything you need, like kind of what Mark just asked?
I don't believe so. We are also part of a shared services grant, and we can share resources with other towns as well. We have a shared inspector, a shared public health nurse. So I don't believe we would be needing to add any additional employees in the next year or two.
And then in terms of the mosquito control stuff that you have on here, is that contracted out with the town?
Yes.
With the Middlesex
Yes,
people,
it
or
is.
is that somebody else? That ends up.
It is through Middlesex mosquito control.
Okay. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Karen?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Ade.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks like next is Public Works, and I think I see Jane Kinsella and Chris Cole in the room.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Hi. I just want to do a quick shout out to Chris Cole here, director. Fighting for that position. Next slide, Caitlin, please. So this is our org chart. We have 60 full-time employees, 5 seasonals. We don't currently have any seasonals. We definitely look to have them in April if we can get them. But the big story here is we have been down as many as 11 employees, and right now we are down 1 position, which is kudos to HR there. Yeah, he's done remarkable work to get us, almost fully staffed. So we're really thrilled with that. It's just a huge change in the operation when you have full crews at every division. So. Slide, Caitlin. Our general fund, no staffing changes. Administration, engineering, and the highway stormwater are all level funded. There's increases in the highway, both for gravel crushing, and that's because we have 10,000 currently in there, and you can't get a contractor to come and do anything for 10,000, spend a day with their equipment and whatnot, a day or two. So we bumped that up to 20. Equipment maintenance is bumped up because most of our parts have been going up 30 to 35%, so that's pretty conservative. It helps that Greg had that kind of a credit with Seagraves, right? So that's gonna help. So that's why we kind of kept it at over the 10,000. Increase in fuel. Parks and cemetery, slight increases in the masonry, mulch, and chemicals like the fertilizer. If you have that at home, you know that that has just skyrocketed. I would like to maybe hire like a landscape person for Wood End Cemetery design, because we're laying out some other areas, so that's what that professional technical services, that additional money in there, so. And then forestry, the same type of thing, is to try to incrementally keep up with the brush stump disposal. We have a stump grinder, but this is the actual disposal, they've taken away, so. Okay, next slide, Kate. So this is what it looks like as far as percentages. It looks like a big increase under forestry. It really isn't. We used to have a lower level tree climber. We found that it wasn't that helpful in the division. We needed somebody with more skills, so we sort of bumped it up to a tree climber 2. It was a 3, so 2. So there's not added personnel there. It's just an increase in the skill level that's required and how we hire out. The expenses by division are just sort of summarized there. The highway includes the fuel, so you see that increase at 8%, total budget at 4.6, but if you pull out the fuel, my total budget increase is really 3.7. Next slide, Kate. Accommodated costs, snow and ice are level funded. There was a decrease in rock salt. I think last year was about $75 a ton, went down to 57, so that's a help. Calcium chloride is up slightly to 145. I think it was like 118 or something last year. Street lights are level funded. Next slide. So this is that infamous rubbish recycling contract. Just a quick summary, those are some of the components of the contract that we hope to keep going forward, we'll see. There's a 3% increase next year and the following year. I think as concerning is the Covanta contract, because when that was up in 2020, it went up 33%. I've been trying to get some numbers for, other municipalities who have recently signed a new contract with Covanta just to see what's coming up to us in the next year and a half. But, personally, I don't think it's going to be 3%. So, unlike the rubbish recycling, where we can go to different companies, we can't go anywhere else. It's there. So, next slide, please. So some of the recycling programs that we run to kind of reduce the tonnage, we do 2 household hazardous waste days. This is outside the contract. We do styrofoam, electronics. Within the contract, we do rigid plastics, paper shredding, textiles, and outside the contract, the mattress recycling. And that's really been good. We thought we'd get a lot of complaints about that one, and that's really been just running smoothly. So people have the option of curbside pickup or dropping off at the garage for a lower price, and it's been going okay. Black Earth composting, currently we have 471 subscribers. That initial program of giving out a bin and bins, that's continuing, bags, whatever, because we definitely want to try to promote that. It's probably like a $35 expense that they don't have to incur initially. And just on those 471 subscribers, they estimate, because they really can't calculate specifically, but it's about $10,000 at our current rate of $98 for a ton. That's pretty good savings. Those are the rates, and if we'd like to try to expand that, whether that's just a conversation we're going to have. I don't think the town necessarily can do it town-wide yet, but maybe some sort of pilot program where you're paying or whatever. The thing you have to be careful about though is that we can't be paying Black Earth, because then the prevailing wage hits and just different other things. So whatever program we look at, we're going to have to look at how to frame it.
That's so weird. Okay.
Let's see, next slide, thanks. So enterprise funds, there's no new staffing with water. There are some increases, the hazardous waste disposal falls under that, and that has been, those rates have been just going up for the last few years, so this is the first time we've increased that. Fuel, it falls under that, so I increased that there, and just, there's some software licenses and small, supplies, all supplies across the board are going up. And I think we estimated 3% on MWRA assessments. Next slide, okay. SOAR, again, no new staffing. That the hazardous waste is split between water and sewer, so there's an increase in that division also. Same thing with software licenses that fall under them. Supplies increases, the fuel, same type of things. The MWRA assessment at 3%. Next slide. Stormwater, no new staffing. Professional technical services, those are increased because the MS4 permit requires us to do additional street sweeping. That falls under snow and ice, but the services to monitor and to test what you're picking up would fall under the stormwater. So we have to do more street sweeping than what we normally do under the permit. So I think we're almost triple what we were doing before. So it's like hauling and testing of the street sweeping. Next slide, okay. Okay, so that's what the water, sewer, and stormwater budgets look like. It looks like slight increases. I just want to be clear that that does not include, capital and debt. Okay, so the total water for me, for salaries and expenses is 0.6%, but if you actually look at, you add the capital and debt, whatnot, it's at 3.2. For sewer, it's 1% for salaries and expenses, but it's 6.4 when you add the capital and debt, because we are splitting a back truck with stormwater. That's a $700,000 vehicle, so $350 in each. And then also we want to do some design work for Brewer Lane and St. Joseph's Way sewer stations. So that will be next year. So there's additional funds in sewer for that. Stormwater costs are up 3.4%, but when you add the capital and debt, it's up 14.4% because the back truck comes out of that. And we are looking for funding for a drainage master plan, and which is about $100,000, and then we're going to add another $100,000 to the drainage line item to address the issues found within that plan. Next slide, okay. This is, I think you either saw it at town meeting, or maybe, I know Ryan went through this. So this is the pavement management plan. We just recently got an additional $300,000 at town meeting, which was great. So we'll be up near 1.3. Generally, we're up at $1 million, and that's the green line. So you can see that unless we do, put some sort of additional funding, we're not going to be getting anywhere with it. So we just got an additional $3,000. Next year, I think we have an additional $600,000 related to Lowell Street. So you're probably looking at the following year to start kicking in some additional money into that line item to keep up and get ahead. Next slide. Those are the C-Click fixes, which rubbish recycling, the story there is at 22%, but a year ago it was at 55%. So we had little problems a year ago, but not so much now. I'm not sure why the trees is so high at 17%. I kind of went through them and didn't look like there was anything alarming, but maybe just more people aware that can use this system, which is great. We appreciate them doing that because it gives us a tracking mechanism and it sends out to various people that are in those divisions, and they're all able to respond. So it's we encourage people to use that. Next slide, please. And that's just a reminder that we do have a water conservation program. It's an absolute terrific benefit for residents, giving rebates for $200 for washers and all toilets and rain barrels. So we encourage people to continue applying for those rebates, and everything is on the website. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Questions in the meeting room?
I have one, couple.
Mm.
Thanks. Thank you. That was great. So thank you for the update on composting, first of all. And thank you for sharing actual savings. I think this is something that the select board really needs to take up, and we haven't had a chance to get to it yet. We really need to have a comprehensive discussion, you and Fennellen and Chris and Black Earth and the residents that have been focused on composting. You know, I've had more conversations with Black Earth, and they sound very promising, but that is certainly on our to-do to make sure that we bring it to the select board
It's
and
a
get everybody
terrific
up to
program,
speed.
yeah.
So I appreciate all your support about that. I heard the other night that schools, they have one elementary school fully on board with us, and I think the high school might be next. They started discussions. So that led me into my next question. So as far as our trash contracts go, do our trash contracts cover the high school too?
Yeah.
The schools? Okay. Cause we had lots of talks about trash barrels and our trash contracts, but we really haven't talked about that. So, but we have had composting related discussions about, especially now that people are getting breakfast and lunch, there may be more opportunities to take tonnage out of our schools. Yeah, so, okay, awesome, thank you. Quick question, so I didn't realize there was a sewer station on Joseph's Way.
Mhm.
I was wondering if it's not too much trouble, how many sewer stations do we have in town? I'm aware of one on Haverhill Street and one at Sturgis Park.
13 or 12,
Okay.
12.
Okay,
12.
and how many, and it's okay if we don't have this answer now, I'm trying to get a feel for how many more like are gonna need.
Halfway through.
Halfway through, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're halfway through periodic replacing.
These are gonna be a lot less money than like Charles Street is a huge one.
Yeah.
These two, that's why we're doing them together, a
Okay.
lot less money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was Charles Street the largest one?
Yes.
Okay, cause that was, what was that, $500,000 just in remediation of the asbestos? Arsenic? Arsenic.
Yes.
Okay, that was,
arsenic.
okay, so they'll be smaller, that was the big
Yes.
one, okay, thank you for putting that in context. We're about halfway through. Okay, and then I was just like, okay, I think I got a washing machine rebate like 15, 20 years ago, and I was like, eventually we're gonna have to replace it, cause some of these aren't built to be repaired anymore, unlike the old. Would it be a huge impact to maybe consider not making it one time? Toilets last forever, I guess, but I was,
Well, I think the toilets, you just have to be replacing something with some, a more efficient, is the washer a one time?
yeah, your slide said one time.
Oh, okay, all right, the washing machine is.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that toilets people can get whatever in their house, right, as long as you're
Well, I think that's
replacing.
Yeah. I thought it said one time too, but I mean, like I would expect I haven't heard about toilets having a shorter lifetime than they used to.
On purchase of a new, okay, yeah, so because you can't go, let's say you go get another 1.6, you can't turn around and get one again, because you're getting rid of this 1.6, so it's gotta be, you're getting rid of an inefficient to efficient, that's what that means, yeah. So, yeah, I guess.
They won't be
it's-
selling them anymore, which is really good.
Yeah,
Larger ones.
yeah, that's a conversation, there's money in the, there,
Okay.
but, I think their program originally was set up like that before me, because they weren't sure what type of response,
And I will take a look at the RMLD replacements as well. I mean, things do wear out, and we wanna encourage people to continually think about, conserving these things. Right, that's all I got. Thank you so much. This is great.
Jackie?
Yes, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question, I think for Chris. Hi, Chris. When do you think you'll be able to come to the board to talk about the new bins and plans? What's the right timing, do you think, to come to the board and talk about that?
Well, I'd say probably in another, maybe a couple of months, possibly.
Maybe Febish?
Yeah, February, yeah.
Okay, have we already placed orders?
No.
We are in discussions about logistics mostly, and essentially finalizing how the delivery is going to take place and the count of barrels as well.
So would it make sense to have maybe an update, when, how? Can't do one this year really, huh? Nope, okay. So maybe as there are key events, it would be possible to kind of share with the board that X just happened. Oh yeah, sure.
Sure.
And what the plan is. I think the community has a lot of interest in how this is gonna play out, so thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks, Jeff. And thanks, Jane. Too many Chris's. In terms of the trash contract stuff going forward, our current one already includes recycling in the contract. Is it anticipated in '26 that it's gonna be taken out of the contract?
It will probably be in it, but it may not be framed the same way. Right now, we don't own the recycling. So whatever happens to the market, we don't care. Many of the new contracts are saying you have to pay if it goes like this. You get something or you pay, but we tried to avoid that when we did it, in 10 years ago, so it is. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough of them, but I know that in talking to some of the other directors, though, that's what they generally will see, is that you own some part of that recycling.
Do you know how much it might end up going up, or I know it's in flux, but are we talking, is everything's doubling or tripling, whatever in the future? Like,
What would go up, the contract itself or the recycling?
because of the recycling portion.
Oh, that's like a market condition that would actually change as monthly. Yeah, so I would know.
And then in terms of, I know you're finally at full staff or missing one person or whatever, do you anticipate needing more people in the future now? That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I will say that the DPW, even on the cemeteries, I don't think there's a leaf across the street,
Yeah.
depending on when
They
they
are
do things.
pristine.
It's pretty
Yeah.
incredible the work that they do.
Thank you, I'll let them know.
Thank you for your time in Reading as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Been fun, thank you.
Thanks.
I'll set you, Vicky.
So just one quick question, Jane. I assume the answer to this is probably no, but when I saw the doubling of gravel crushing expenses, is there opportunity to get some help on that from Chapter 90 or some other outside funding?
Well, we probably could use Chapter 90 funding, but that means not putting it on the streets.
Right.
Yeah, we have X amount that we get, we can look at, we tend to put 100% towards the paving. But there are areas we probably could redirect it, but that just means less paving.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Yeah, and Jane, congrats on your retirement. Thank you for all your service to the town. Chris, congratulations. We're looking forward to continuing to work with you. And Chris gave us a great presentation recently, I think in maybe late October, early November, kind of a winter outlook, and we appreciated that. So thanks for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, and it looks like the last department for tonight is Public Services and Administrative Services. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. Assistant Town Manager Manellis. I'm here to present the Public Services and Administrative Services FY25 budget. So we're really, if you can go to the next slide, Caitlin. So we're really one department with two budgets and two names, as you can see up there. It's a little confusing, but you can see that's the way the budget's laid out. And Fidel had a great idea this year how about we hear from the rest of the staff in administrative and public services? So we're gonna bring up the division heads to talk about their portions of the budget, so you're not just listening to me again all night. And obviously, we'll be available to answer any questions after
And
that.
it wasn't my idea. It was the chair's idea, just so you know.
Okay, the chair, well, Fidel relayed the idea from the chair. And that's what we're gonna do tonight. So, and then at the end, I'll wrap it up and, feel free to ask questions as usual, so. So the first person I wanna bring up is Jane Wellman. She's the Director of Operations, and she's gonna talk about the operations and town manager budget, so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm Jane. I know all of you. Thank you, Caitlin. You can go to the next slide. We're gonna try and keep this as brief as possible, so I'm sure you have a million questions for all of us. So operations is something of a Franken department, is how I call it. We take care of procurement for the entire town, includes schools. We do communications across the town. That includes media relations, social media, the website, Code Red, SeeClickFix, et cetera. Risk management, and that includes all of our insurance lines with the exception of workers' compensation and insurance, like health insurance for employees. And we also manage the safety committee. I work with Sean Donahue and all of our divisions and all of our departments on that. Constituent services, like the ombudsman work, talking to our residents. We have shared staff. Our salary line, which we'll get to in a moment, includes not just myself and the executive assistant in operations, but also clerk staff throughout the administrative services side and administrative staff. And then we also carry postage, copier, leases, things like that. So one of the highlights we had this year was the creation of my position, the Director of Operations, which is bringing procurement together with business administration, and we're supporting that with an executive assistant. So, next slide, Caitlin. Thank you, Caitlin. So for FY25, we're planning a level services budget for salaries and expenses. Our clerk will get to our postage expenses, which are related to, they're carried here in operations, but they are related to elections. So most of the expense line is driven by an $18,000 increase in anticipated increase in postage for elections. And then our insurance lines are carried in our accommodated costs. Those are determined earlier in the year. And we are at this point projecting a 10% increase in property and casualty. Last year, that line went up 16%. Of the last 4 years, it's been a double-digit increase 3 of the 4 years. So it's a concern, it's an area we're watching, and we continue to work. Our loss ratios are down, so we're trying to keep that at 10%, and our risk assessment will be coming up next week with Maya. Caitlin, move next slide, please. So the town manager's office includes, the line items are not necessarily divisions, select board, finance committee, and legal services. There's a small anticipated increase in the town manager's salary line. Otherwise, it's an entirely level funded budget. There's a $300 increase in some printing services, and that is the bottom line. So our request there is just a 1.23% increase. Okay, and that includes all of our legal costs. Thank you, Caitlin. Do you have questions? I told you it was gonna be quick.
Can I have a question? Good, thank you. Sorry. So with the insurance flying, so the way that different ways to manage that would include changing deductibles and things like that. Is that something that could be in our mix?
We could increase our deductibles, for example, in automobile losses, vehicle accidents, from like $500 to $1,000, but we're just gonna pick that up in another line item. We don't have enough vehicle losses that's really gonna be a lever for that sort of thing. Catastrophic losses drive loss ratios. We haven't had any in the last couple of years, so that's good news. Litigation drives loss ratios. Litigation has a high deductible. It's $20,000, $10,000, depending on what it is. And then other kinds of things that we've been working very hard to down manage. So sewer backups if you look at our social media, you will see we run campaigns pretty frequently about sewer and water back. Those cost quite a bit of money when there's somebody's finished basement has been damaged. So this season, this fall, we've only had one and it's been a minor one. So we believe that that's working. And so that's why communications and risk management actually go really well together. So we do actively work on this.
So it's more proactive stuff, not playing with the policies.
No, we're looking at that, and I've put Maya on notice that we're looking at, all the ways to mitigate these costs because I've looked at these numbers and I don't like the trajectory that we've seen, and they know that too. Reinsurance rates are expensive, climate change is driving property losses nationwide and globally, and so all of those reinsurance, everything's driving up. It's not unique to Reading or municipalities, we're seeing it.
So the question is it unique to Maya?
No, I don't think it's unique to Maya, no.
Okay.
I
So if
don't
it's got the
know.
policies, it would
No,
change things.
I don't think so, no. They've been great to work with. They help us keep our costs down. We receive a grant from them every year, and part of the work that we've done with that grant is really partnering with the police department and with DPW to put sensors on water pump stations so that we get a notification before somebody has bad news. We have that all over town. We have, the facilities department has put sensors, water sensors in our buildings so that if something runs too long, if somebody's watering the grass out here or watering one of the gardens, it will shut off. So we have to be careful so we don't inconvenience that, so we don't have water losses. So we've put a lot of, elements in as part of the safety committee across all of our infrastructure in our buildings and through our policies to reduce risk. We have, the DPW is doing a training this Friday for our snow and ice operations, and I'll give a conversation about what to do in case of a vehicle accident and how to manage those risks. So operations serves everybody, everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Karen, I see.
Madam Chair, is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So Jane, you can see all of our total legal expenses year over year, is that what? Can you comment generally on how they compare year over year?
So our legal expenses are pretty static. Our legal line is level funded, and it's been pretty much level funded for the last few years. And we send that in the full budget. And I'm trying to find that line item right now. We're funded to $285,000. That is the same as what was approved in FY24. FY23 actuals was $208,000. FY22 actuals was $277,000. FY21 was $302,000. So we're pretty steady on our legal costs. Maya picks up the litigation piece. So we will pay the deductible, and then Maya picks up, if there's attorneys involved or things like that. So and those costs get spread out over years. So it's not just 1 year you get that deductible, but you might pay pieces for that deductible over time as costs add up in a piece of litigation. Okay, that's good.
Good to know. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next division head is our esteemed town clerk, Laura Jim, presenting her budget.
Good evening. Thank you, Caitlin. Can you go to the next slide? So the town clerk's office is, we can finally say that we are fully staffed for the first time since I've been here.
Congratulations.
And beautiful staff there. Go to the next slide. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we do in our mission in the town clerk's office. And if you look at the small print, it's small because there's so much that we do. There's basically referred to as the hub of town hall. Anybody that comes into town hall pretty much comes to the clerk's office for one thing or another. Some of the projects that we've accomplished in FY23, all of our voter registration cards are now electronic. We no longer have paper. And we can that project prompted from a couple of years ago when we had a records request for voter registration cards and it took us hours. It now only take us minutes. Working to make all the vital records electronic, we're going back to the 1600s. The staff has been spending a lot of time keying that data in. Most of the time they end up saying, I need something else to do besides data entry by the end of the day. And then we've also done online dog licensing this year. And next year we'll be doing business certificates online. Caitlin, next slide. Real quick, something that I didn't plan on mentioning, but with public records requests, to get a little bit of a put in perspective of how many public records requests the police department has, I deal with everybody except the police department, the schools, the fire, RMLD, and all of town hall. And this year we've had 390 requests. So the chief deals with a lot more than what we do. Last year we had 492 total, so the numbers are going down, just to mention real quick. So elections in FY23, we had 3 elections. In FY24, there's going to be 2. That would be the presidential primary and the town election on March 2024. And then for the FY25, we'll have 3 elections, and with the presidential election being the most expensive. So that's where the budget looks a little bit different for elections. Next slide. So going into the town clerk line, the budget is a level budget for this year. The expenses are staying the same with no change in the salaries. There's no additional staff coming on board. The elections budget, there is an increase because of the number of elections, also because of the fact that one of them is a presidential election. The presidential tends to cost us about double what a regular election would cost. When I say regular, I mean the town. Also, the increase in postage, as Jane mentioned, we increased the postage line by 18,000, knowing that some of that will be refunded. Will get reimbursed by the state. The Secretary's office will be working with the auditor's office after the election to see if we can get some or most of that reimbursed, which will go into the general fund. We're gonna be looking going forward at increases in the postage because of the vote by mail. We've noticed that vote by mail went into place in 2020, and every election that increases on the total number of ballots that are mailed out. And I'm expecting, I'm willing to guess that the number of ballots that'll be mailed out for the 2024 presidential will double what we mailed out in 2020. Next slide. Some of the long-term goals over the last 10 years, if I know those pictures are not real easy to see, but those are vital records books that are falling apart, and the paper is actually turning to dust because it's so old. What you're looking at is vital records back to the 1600s, and over the last 14 years, we've restored 10 of those books. And basically what happens is that we take that paper is removed from the book, placed into a chemical which brings the text, the writing out so you can read it, makes the paper so that it'll last forever, and it's put into a sealed sleeve so that there's not going to be any deterioration or, it basically will be around forever. And what I'd like to do, continuing, is we haven't done any in the last couple of years. I'd like to see if we can add some funding somewhere along the line to continue doing those books. We have a whole lot more to do. It's amazing on the difference on the 10 that we've done. If you would like to stop in the clerk's office anytime, I'll show you the difference between the old and the new. Caitlin? Any questions? We good?
I have a question. So with the preservation and things, are you digitizing these as well?
Yes, that's part of the, yep. So the books we have to legally keep forever. The books will be around forever, but the digitizing it, it's all being put onto a TIFF file and then put into our Laserview system.
And a follow-on to that, so, and you're still having people sign actual books as well. So that means our book
For vital records,
for, I can't think of what the last thing I signed when I came in for, but you turn around.
taking an oath,
Yeah.
you taking
I
the
mean, we're
oath
still,
book?
we're still creating like paper books in this day and age. You see
We
that
have to.
changing? Okay.
No. When it comes to signatures, in the clerk's office, that's not gonna change anytime soon. Most everything that we do requires a wet signature. The oath book, the book that we're using right now, that you've seen, we've had that book's over 16 years old.
Oh, okay.
So they last a long time.
So it's not taking up a lot of room either. Okay,
Right.
that's good to hear. Yeah, if I could ask a question, are you all finished?
Absolutely.
Okay, Madam Chair, you okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a general question, I love when I can find things on the website. I can't always find, things on the website or sometimes, so I know to go to the clerk's office, you have everything. So, logistically, and I know you're very busy, you have like 10 titles at the bottom of your email. So, sometimes I say, hey Laura, I'm gonna request this as a public records request. And I've done this with for other departments, because in my head, I wonder if it's like a see-click fix system where it can be tracked and routed. So my question for you on the public records request is how does the staff feel about that? I mean,
The staff in the clerk's office,
yeah, or I'm open to other feedback.
I'm trying to make sure so the staff in the clerk's office is always willing to do anything that they need to do.
Okay.
To provide. They would prefer not to do public records requests.
Okay.
But if they're asked, they do. I can tell you that most of the public records requests go through me. But, the staff, they are involved in it, and would they rather not do them? Probably not. Is that what you're asking? Does that answer your question?
Well, basically what I'm hearing you saying, it is more work, it's more work to process it? Is that what I'm hearing?
So, no, it's not. And actually, it's beneficial. One of the things, so when this new law went into place in 2017, it took us a little bit of, getting ready, getting the system in place. And one thing that the one value that's come out of it is we're able to control, I don't like using the word control. We're able to see the requests that are coming in. We're able to determine, like if we have a frequent flyer, in the records that we keep tells us exactly what's going on with records requests. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are the same thing. So when a request comes in, I can look at this and say, I sent that out a couple weeks ago. I can go back and look and say, okay, this is exactly what I sent out and sent that out, and not even get anybody else involved. That happens a lot. So it's actually, in my opinion, saving time for other staff.
That's kind of where I thought I might be going, like looking for a way to not, people's inboxes, I'm assuming, are jammed full. And if you, depending on what device you're on, or what Outlook decides to do on any particular day, sometimes things get lost, triggering perhaps more follow-up emails, and none of this is meant to be any kind of a negative kind of comments, but I do know, because of the extra steps and requirements by the state, I do know that if I ask for a public records request, it is tracked and it gets back to me, and then I don't worry about having to make it again or and I think that can make everyone's lives easier. So that's kind of where my question is coming from. And I deal with it in my own life too. So anyway, okay.
Just another task for us to complete.
Also, you know, as a select board member, we're basically pinging. We're asked to ping, I love information, I like to ask for a lot of it. The town manager is a very busy position. I getting emails from, let's talk about a big inbox, okay? And so, you know, it just seems like there might be a more efficient way to get the information, which she's gonna make sure I get anyway, without having every single request go across his desk. That's kind of where I'm coming, so I'm open to suggestions, I just don't wanna make extra administrative work, fill up anyone's inbox.
So, am I understanding that you're saying that you would like to see more information out on the website so that it doesn't have to be a public records request? Is that what I'm hearing?
Sometimes. Yes, always. Yeah, I would love to see everything on the website, and I would like the search feature to be like doing exactly the way what I want it to do. We don't have a good relationship, myself and the search feature.
So I have to say that Reading is actually very good at putting information out on the website. There's a lot out there, and a lot of all of the staff works hard to put information out there. There is some information that we don't want, even though it's public record, we don't want it to go out to everybody. Like there are some things like building records. It's public record, but do you want somebody sitting in the living room looking at your building files for your home? We'd rather track who has the information, requesting that information for your home.
Yep.
So if something does happen, we can turn it over and say, hey, to the police department, you know, this person requested these records.
Yep.
So that's the kind of thing you want to think about when you're putting stuff out on the web.
So I did notice that was a change in the procedure. I would normally go into town hall and request to look at a file, and now I forget if Kim told me to make it a PR request, or she just informed me, yep, I'll get that right to you, and by the way, it's a PR request.
The reason why that is to make it more efficient for you.
Yeah.
And what she does is she sends that information out, but then she gives it to me so that I can track it. So that way we know what information you got, and we can use it if we need it.
Okay. But it's still okay to, as a member of the public, and because I know everything can be sent electronically in a heartbeat, like it's amazing. So I don't have to travel down here and go to the counter and request this anymore. I can just email her.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that fits into the public records request process. Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay.
The key is just for us to be able to track what goes out.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I just have an easy question. Sorry, Jen. How much is it to do one of the books that you were asking to do?
It depends on the book itself, and it depends on the age and the shape that it's in. The cheapest one was $1,400, and then we did one that was $36. So the highest I would say is $36.
And how many are left?
I did not count that. There's a lot.
Over 100, under 100?
Right around 100.
So that's not a one-off, that's a significant amount. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're gonna start somewhere.
So what's been happening over the last 14 years is when there's money at the end of the year that didn't get spent from the town clerk's office, we did a book.
Well, that's 100 years, Laura.
Get started now.
It's gonna be a problem for us.
For me, anyway, I'm not gonna be around for 100 years. Any other questions?
No, and I just want to say to you that in addition to the 20 different functions and on this department's responsibility list, we appreciate that you took the time earlier this fall to kind of walk us through the options and costs with respect to town election scheduling for next year. So I know it's not unheard of that, you know, that we have to, or that we choose to make the decision, the change, but we appreciate the time that went into that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, I'd like to bring up Sean Donahue, who's the Director of Human Resources and an Assistant Department Head.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you in person. Usually I'm over on Zoom for this. All right, Caitlin, thank you. First slide already. So HR is probably what everyone envisions it to be. We deal with the hiring of employees, personnel management training, testing for new hires, and benefits administration. The HR department in Town Hall provides benefits to not only the town employees, but also the light department and the school department. Town employees, we have about plus or minus 300 that we're directly responsible for in terms of personnel management. I know that there were some discussions tonight about a lot of hirings that we've done, and I just want to give a shout out to the staff. Annabella goes to pretty much all of the interviews that I can't make, so she's a rock star, and Avantika meets with all of our new hires for their benefits, so she's also a rock star in that. I should have put a little asterisk next to when I've, been in Reading, because I left for about 6 months, but for the most part, we have some decent longevity in our office, and I'm pretty proud of their work and very grateful. Just to give you some figures that I pulled tonight, over the past calendar year of 2023, our department has run approximately 200 query requests. So that's for new hires, volunteers alike. And we've had about 48 new hires, 20 promotions or transfers, and we've processed well over 300 benefit transactions, health, dental, life, flexible spending. So it's pretty busy. Next slide, please, Caitlin. Oh, you're already there. Perfect. Okay. So in FY24, we're currently working, as you know, we've had a few things on the agenda. We're working with the town manager and department heads on negotiating our 8 union contracts. We had a recent update to our personnel policy. This actually this year and last year, both in September. This year we added we added an expanded section on military leave, as the chief mentioned. It came in handy right as we had someone going out on that. In addition, last year we had quite a revamping of it for the first time since 2009, a comprehensive project on that. In addition to that, we're just always looking to provide support to staff and managers alike in whatever they need, especially in filling some key positions in the organization. We've been fortunate to hire some key ones in IT. We hired a new DEI person at the library. We've been working to hire or to unfortunately try to replace Assistant Chief Delsic Nor at the fire department. And in our DPW, we filled a key mechanic position that was vacant for quite some time. As far as the numbers go, that's why we're here tonight. For salaries, that's like 2/3 of the HR department, because some of us are split up into the operations side of the funding. So we're just looking for general cost of living and step increases there. Expenses, I'm looking to level fund it. I had worked with Sharon over the past couple of years to make sure that our expenses were really in line with what we were looking to pay over the year. Because for a few years we were looking to, where we had during COVID not hired anyone, then we hired just a ton of people in one year. We wanted to really make sure that our expenses were where they needed to be. So I'm pretty confident they are. So I'm going to work within that over the next year. And then just a highlighted thing that we're going to be working on is we're working with existing tools that we have to work on an online application system within our Munis module that we have. We had put some money into that a few years ago that we're looking to do now, and apart from some training hours, we're not looking to spend too much more money there. If this does not work out, I may be coming back in the future to look for more money for a better system if that doesn't work out, but I don't want to ask for that just yet. So that was short. And Caitlin, I think the next slide just says thanks, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer those. Great. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. So I believe Andrew McNichol is on Zoom. So he will be joining us on Zoom, and he is the Community Development Director and an Assistant Department Head. So, you there, Andrew?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for allowing me to participate remotely as I've jumped around meetings tonight. I'm Andrew McNichol, Community Development Director, and I help lead the community development portion of public services. So that includes planning and development, conservation, and building and permitting. And we can go ahead and jump right to the next slide. Thank you. So I just wanted to start by explaining some of our staff and our responsibilities, and I pulled a small quote, parse down our full responsibility, but to listen, to sustain, to guide, and to strive. It really kind of summarizes everything that we do, because a lot of what we do is very public facing, and our goal is to really start to promote a healthy, sustainable, vibrant, and equitable community. So everything we do really focuses around that long-term goal. In planning and conservation specifically, it's myself and Benjamin Cares as the Economic Development Director, who started about a year ago. Mary Benedetto is our senior planner, who started in 2023, and Chuck Tyrone is our conservation administrator, who's been with the town for some time, as well as Amanda Beatrice, our senior admin assistant. So that's 5 full-time staff members on that side. And under building and permitting, Brett Bennett is our building commissioner. Kim Saunders is our longstanding permits coordinator and the lifeblood of our operation. And Karen Johnson is our new part-time admin assistant over there. And we have a number of part-time building inspectors ranging from building, plumbing, electrical that conduct our inspections for us across residential and commercial development. So all in all, that is 7 full-time staff members and 6 part-time staff members, and we can go ahead and jump to the next slide. So just to explain a little bit about what we do, if you don't already know, we do a lot. And a lot of that comes down to development, review and permitting, long-term visioning and planning, grant applications and management, as well as managing a number of boards and committees. So starting at number 1, development review, comes down to building permits, residential and commercial alike, wetland resources, if any of those permits happen to be within jurisdictional areas, that's where Chuck will jump in. Licensing, permitting, inspections, all of that we previously mentioned. We do zoning enforcement and code review, tracking of history and permits so that we can use that data for going forward and help inform us for any changes we need to make. And we've done a number of online systems improvements for that permitting, which has been extremely helpful. Number 2 of long-term visioning and planning, that really comes down to our presentations, our workshops, priority setting and project implementation, things like zoning amendments or plan development, open space and rec plans, housing production plans, or other. Grant management can help support all of those areas and help support staff in terms of getting projects done and bringing consultants on board. And we also manage the budgeting and reporting of those as well. And then we also serve a number of boards and committees, CPDC, ZBA, CONSCOM, Historical Committee, Trails, Climate Advisory. We have a handful, but we manage it pretty well. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just to get a bit more into detail about 2023 and where we're at right now. On the top right, you see a number of long-term planning and visioning that we've done, the housing production plan, which was completed this year, the hazard mitigation plan that was completed this year, and later in this year and starting now and into 2024, we're starting our MVP 2.0 plan, net zero electrification and action plan. The Walkersbrook redesign is ongoing, Lower Haven streetscape support with engineering we're doing, and MBK community zoning. All of those have public engagement aspects to them and involvement, so they're very important for us to hear from the community and understand some of the priorities and recommendations we include in each of those. And we'll have a series of upcoming plans in 2024 as well. Development review, we had about 9 site plan reviews, 6 subdivisions this year, stormwater permits that can cross those as well between conservation and planning. Building and occupancy permit issuing has remained consistent across the town, and the number of town projects that we've also been involved with. Other work that we do in the day-to-day is just managing some of these projects that are on the ground and ongoing in terms of construction or development, and that's things like the Matera Community Garden, managing that aspect. The Millette MVP project that we've partnered with engineering on and are helping manage that move forward. MNRHSO is our regional affordable housing group, which Reading is the lead community of. It's 5 communities in total. We sit on that board and with a consultant, and it really provides direct services to residents of affordable dwelling units or those seeking such, and it's very, very beneficial. We do the commercial and business support and other regional work and programs, like we sit in on the NSPC, we sit in on some regional MS4 permitting groups and others. So all in all, we are very, very, very busy in our department, but we've managed it very well. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that, because all in all, we have really just seen an increase in salaries from the previous years, but our expenses, despite all our projects, have stayed substantially the same. Expenses in our department typically come to advertisements, trainings and professional development, outsourced services, and mileage. And a bulk of our expensive is really tied to that MNRHSO that I was just talking about, the Regional Affordable Housing Group, because that's $75,000 where Reading, acting as the lead community, pays the invoices, and the other towns reimburse us. But everybody across that group pays $15,000 a year. But us being the lead community, we just lead the expenses on that. So that was about my presentation. I know it's very brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Doing a great job, Andrew. You got a lot on your plate.
No worries. All part of the job.
Yeah, I've seen Andrew and his team, Mary and Ben and others, Chuck, communicate across a variety of audiences and forums on some of the issues they work on. And we know you have a lot ahead of you next year with MBTA communities as well. So thank you for all your work there.
Thank you, guys. If I can maybe just quickly plug in some things that weren't on the slide and some things we've thought about for the next year plus, and some things we've talked about with town management as well. And we've previously brought up things like seasonal intern. We'd love to consider again going forward. I think that's an important aspect in terms of getting young adults into the public services realm and starting to show them this is a cool, fun job. I started here as an intern, and it's just extremely beneficial. So I'd love to keep that on the mind, and we've gotten express support in the past. We've just been busy getting our newer staff up to date this year and churning out these projects. We'd love to start considering ways for us to help fund for conservation land needs in like invasive management and maintenance on that. Right now we partner a lot with and rely a lot on DPW, and whatever we can help take off their plate, we're happy to do that going forward if at all possible. And then really most of our other asks come down to town meeting specific asks for projects, like if we have a new plan desire or other needs like the Millette project. So most of those go straight to town meeting and don't impact the annual budget, but just wanted to throw those things out there.
Yeah, Karen.
Thank you. I just want to say those are excellent suggestions. I'm becoming concerned that we are spreading our planning a little too thin, you know, especially after seeing this this slide deck. And you know, kudos to you all to try to keep up with everything. But I would be supportive of you know, an intern and some of these other creative ideas, and I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if we're done with Andrew, Jenna Ferrenti will come up.
I don't want to interrupt, but I see John Barnes with his hand raised.
On the Zoom, I didn't know if that was for me or not. Oh,
Mr. Barnes, do you have a comment?
Oops. My name's Jonathan Barnes. I'm from Pratt's Creek. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Just a quick comment, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll be really brief. Regarding the budget for the Historical Commission, I'm on the Historical Commission presently, have been since 2014. For as long as I'm aware of, and I've been in town since 1986, and I've been a town meeting member since 1995, the Historical Commission has always had a individual specific line item budget in the budget. It was always $1,500 as far as I know. That changed about 2 years ago, as I think many of you on the select board know, and I know as Fidel knows, but Matt and Andrew may not be aware. I guess it was an idea of the former town manager who had come up with an idea for a consolidated budget amount for several of the committees that are within the community development group, and that included apparently the historical commission, that there was an accumulated budget amount that would be allocated under, I think actually through the select board, but it was administered through the town manager. That was a change for the historical commission, which, as I said, had always previously had a specific line item in the budget that was voted on at town meeting. It was always $1,500. I raised this. This occurred first 2 years ago in the budget 2 years ago, FY23. We did not know about it. We only found out about it because I'm a town meeting member and I saw that our budget line item was no longer in the budget, and I raised it at the select board meeting at that time. And you all and the town manager in particular was gracious enough and good enough to include a $1,500 specific designated amount, which is revisited every month in our budget report. I was also surprised to see that this year as well, because I had asked and I was hopeful that we would get our specific line item budget amount restored. That wasn't the case last year, but I'm just here to comment about that, bring that to your attention, and request for your consideration, for all of your consideration, to include again that same specific amount of $1,500 as a specific line item in the budget. That's all I had to say, and I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions for Andrew, we'll proceed with Jenna Ferrante, who's the Community Services Director and Assistant Department Head. And she'll be the last presentation of the night.
All right, last but not least, I hope. Right, Chris? So I'm Jenna Fiorenti, I'm the Community Services Director. I also started off as an intern like Andrew, so that's pretty cool. We couldn't be more proud of the staff. Chris is extremely well liked at the senior center, being there for only a year. He's in the building. Jim Sullivan has been in the industry for quite some time, and he just came on in May. We're finally fully staffed in community services. We just hired our last staff member, and she started on Monday, Janet Dubow, our part-time volunteer coordinator. So we're looking good on that front. We can go to the next slide. So I'm just going quickly through just some popular programs and events, stats, and notable projects for each of the departments. So popular programs and events are Summer Vacation, which is also formerly known as the summer camp, Sunday in Town basketball, and the Neshoba Valley ski and snowboard, Saturday Night Lights, downtown trick or treat. We actually had to shut down a street this year for the downtown trick or treat because it's just getting increasingly popular, and who knows, maybe next year we'll have to shut down Haven Street. We'll see. So the stats for the rec, we've had 6,500 program registrations for the calendar year of 2023. That's an increase of over 2,000 registrations from 2022. I thought it was notable to put some age breakdowns of how many of those registrations are certain age groups. So you can see right there that we do offer a variety of programs for all different ages. So that's also something that the Recreation Division prides themselves on, that we're reaching all ages and offering diverse programming opportunities. So notable projects is the Memorial Park and the Sturgis Park capital improvement plans. What a lot of people don't know is that we work hand in hand a lot with the DPW. So kudos to them for helping us out with those projects. But the rec administrator, Mike Hannaford in Parks, Jane and Chris, and Ryan all work together to make these projects happen and really do a lot of collaborating to make these projects happen. Same thing with the Birch Meadow Master Plan. We're really proud of almost completing phase 1. There's some really minimal things required to finish the project, just the punch list items, but overall the project's completed. And then at town meeting, we were just approved to move forward with phase 2 for design and construction. Next slide. So Veteran Services just gives you a rundown of their mission and their goals and objectives. Will is an accredited Veteran Services agent, so he's able to really interact with our veterans and submit the claims in a timely fashion, which before we didn't have. So before we were just submitting claims directly to Boston and waiting for their response, but now Will has capabilities to really help people in the moment. So he's really taken off in this division, and he served over 300 veterans this year alone. Some notable projects that he's worked on: there was a new flagpole that was donated at Memorial Park, and the boulder moved from Salem Street to the corner of Charles and Harrison. Both were dedicated and rededicated at Memorial Park and Veterans Day. And again, another shout out to the DPW for helping us move that actual boulder from Salem Street to Memorial Park, and for creating that beautiful landscaping that you see around the flagpole, and helping us kind of navigate that project. And also, Will has done a tremendous job with Scuttlebutt. That's when the veterans come monthly they watch a movie. Will has coordinated trips to museums and things like that. And he's really trying to be innovative with where he takes the veterans and what he does for the veterans on a monthly basis. Next slide, please. The Elder and Human Services Division, this is just a snapshot. Again, like REC does so much more than what's listed, and Elder and Human Services does way more than just what's listed here. But programming, social services, our health, and our caseworker always make sure that all of our elders are getting what they are entitled to. So next slide. The Elder and Human Services Division, just some quick stats here too. The total enrollments and interactions at the center have been over 28,000 interactions since the beginning of the year. We have over 14,000 program and event registrations. We have over 3,000 rides, which doesn't include our medical transportation rides that we get on a monthly basis. And we have over 381 folks who have been participating in our large bus trips that we've implemented this year. And then these are just some pictures. Next slide. And this gives you a rundown of our salaries and our expenses. We're not asking for anything this year. I know that there probably is going to be some questions about how we're sustaining our programming moving forward, because a few of our programs are supplemented right now through ARPA funds. So we're aware of that, and I just wanted to touch really quick on our salaries and kind of how they're offset right now, if that's okay. So we offset our salaries right now through ARPA, but we also offset them through the trust fund, which is a minimal amount, which has been the same for the past several years. And we also get a formula grant every year. So since 2021, our state formula grant, since 2021, it's increased 53%. So the formula grant is based on per head of each senior. So they give us $12 for each senior. So that shows you how many more seniors are in Reading, right? So every year we're getting more. So last year we got 81,000, and this year we're up to 93,000. So we have around 7,700 seniors. So we think that, yeah, we're offsetting the full-time senior coordinator right now with ARPA funds, but every year we're gonna keep getting an increase in our formula grant to offset that salary that we're using right now. And we hope to keep that position full-time in the future by doing that, by offsetting it with the grants. And then operationally, I know that there's also some questions there with the sustainability, and we're working, meeting with other towns, seeing how they're structured in their towns. And we also have a Friends Up group that is just formed that has tremendous fundraising capabilities that we have also seen work in other towns. I just met with the Andover director today, and she said that they just had a health fair in Andover, run by the Friends of, Andover 60 plus or whatever they're called. I don't know the official name, but they made $7,000 on that one event, and that goes all back to the senior citizens. So we have Chris and I and the team over there, we have a lot of different ideas, and we're working with Recalc and with other towns, and we didn't want to come forward and say, oh, we're gonna need another $50,000 in expenses this year, because we're just trying to explore and see what we really need, and use this past year as fact-finding and continue to fact-find for a little bit longer and come forward with a really comprehensive plan in the future. So, any questions? I think that's it.
That sounds great. Thank you. Great, look forward to hearing more.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the staff. I think this is your phone, Jennifer, or something. We have a deep and talented bench here in Reading, and we're very fortunate to have all the staff come today. I want to thank them personally for coming out and presenting their budgets. I think there's one more slide maybe, Caitlin? This is just a wrap-up of the increases, and as we touched on, it's in administrative services, it's due to elections, and it's due to insurance. Other than that, everything's pretty flat. So. And I'm happy to answer any more questions, or we could call it a night. Okay, thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Thanks to the staff for coming in and presenting. Any other questions or items for tonight? Okay, seeing none, is there?
You want to let Ed adjourn Finance Committee?
Yes. Joe, can you give me a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn Finance Committee.
Second. Thank you. We gotta do a roll call because you guys are remote. For shame. Andrea, are you still on?
Andrew's not.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thank you, Andrea. John?
Yep.
Mark?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Emily?
Yep.
Joe?
Yes.
And Ed, yes.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
And is there a motion to adjourn select board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks Karen, thanks Mark, we'll do the roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jackie, yes. So we're adjourned. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll be back.